I've ran through the mortality and most of the revenue phase. You can see the current cash reserves are only 38. That's enough to buy like 3 more units max. That's not enough to handle this. So it's time to start looking for contributions. And everybody's got to kind of agree to chip in here. This guy's only got $1. That's I forgot to hand out the base income. Oops. That's why this looks so bad. So I gotta hand these suckers out. I did all the income for the offices and the governorships. Nothing too exciting there. Really isn't a whole hell of a lot of income yet. And trade income can't be devoted to the government. I probably should have put some taxes in place just so that money could get into the bank for this turn, because it's looking pretty tight right now. That $100 came in, but wars cost what, $20 each for active wars. So that's pretty bad actually. Okay, so let's see what we got. Who's got enough cash to do something, and you can reposition it before you send in. So this guy's only got $5, $6. He really doesn't want to contribute because he won't get anything for it. This guy's willing to throw 10 in and buy himself a point of influence. He doesn't really have more money. This guy will throw 10 in and give himself a point of influence. This guy only has 5, 6, 7. He doesn't want to throw in. What about the rest of the money? You know, hey, we're in really hard cases here. Can't you guys contribute? We can all throw all our money in. It's kind of nice for him. He's only got $1 extra. Yeah, there's a willingness to do that. So we're going to throw everything into play, and everybody's going to spend their money. It's all going to go in here. We can do that. So he throws his $6 into play. One useful thing about a hard board is it doesn't slide around when you move it. You could, of course, pay. One nice thing about the divided board, though, is it's easier to pack this up and move it. Of course, the folding ROR board, you know, to pack this whole thing up is going to take at least a decent-sized folder. So it's not something you're going to just throw in your pocket. Plus, the game has a big footprint. Anyway, I'll take care of the rest of the money. This guy spent 10. He's going to get a point of influence for that, and we'll throw the rest of his in, for example. That's $13. Just everybody's throwing everything in, and we'll take care of them all at once. As I enter the trade phase, one of the reasons I kind of stepped away was I saw kind of not a clear conflict. The rules are clear as they're written, but I'm not sure that that's what's intended. So back in the government offices, who is it? The harbor master gets 1 talent for every 4 traders in Carthage. And it worried me that maybe traders not in Carthage aren't going to generate cards, which would be kind of disturbing, to tell you the truth. And in a sense, it almost doesn't make sense. If someone's family, if the leader of the family or whatever is off in Sardinia, Corsica, I'm not sure these traders should count for the trade cards if they don't count for the for the harbor master. It seems kind of weird, as though the two rules don't quite mesh together. But indeed, these traders do count towards those cards, and well, everybody's gonna get the sum of their cards just as before. And I gotta kind of keep an eye out, because some people have these concessions where they get an extra card in play. And the intention and use of the cards, it's going to be a little different than what you see in Civilization. In Civilization, you're always wanting to kind of optimize what you get, because money's, whatever you can collect is so important towards what you're getting from it. But here it's just going to be cash money, which has more of a temporal advantage than it usually does in Civ. In Civ, you're trying to optimize how good a set you can get over time, and how many good sets you can get over time. And here there's also the I want money. So this guy actually has kind of a nice setup. He has 2 ochre, 2 papyrus, and a timber. And he might well be able to trade those ochre and the timber for a papyrus. This guy doesn't have enough cards. He's been getting a slow growth. Over here, this guy has ochre, 2 ochre, and some other useful things. And this is a troubling situation because he probably has a decent trade with this guy, where he might give all this crap, which is worth 4, 9, 10, 11 bucks, and that's a good deal of money in this game, over to him in exchange for the papyruses. Now, that big ochre deal makes a lot of money. The papyrus, it's not so important that it's papyrus. He's interested in the timber. You're not showing each other these, but I don't know how much that actually matters too much because there's less involved here. Now, this guy has a couple of hides and an iron. He's pretty much off on his own. Nobody's terribly interested. But is there a deal here? And if there isn't, there's a problem. Because this guy can only warehouse 2 plus the coinage 3 goods. So he really is in favor of making that trade because he's not going to be able to hold these cards for long. That's the same as Civ. You only have so many cards you want to hold, so you often end up making deals and compacting early. You can discard some cards or whatever. So this guy's deal is worth 4, 9, 10, 11. Maybe he can hold on to this. That would be his optimal. So his deal's only worth 6, but he's giving a big jump in ochre to him. 12 points worth of ochre. Now this guy's only worth 11. So he's saying, no, that's not really a worthwhile deal. So now this is the deal. We're going to see if they come to it. Odd says they do. I say they don't. They weren't able to negotiate that, I don't think. Why? Could it have gone the other way? Not easily. I have to trade away, not the ochre. I have to trade away the timber. That's key. And the cloth made that more worthwhile. And I'm just not seeing an opportunity. Oh no, I have to hold the timber, right? I'm trading the ochre worth 4. I want the timber. So I was saying, say 9. No, it was 11. I'm holding the timber. I'm trading away 11, and what am I getting? I'm getting 9 and 8 is 17. It really does seem win-win. I'm going to have to throw so many cards away, so I'm going to give it another roll because this seems like a deal that can't really be easily passed. No, it's just not being made. Which means we cut down to the sell trade cards and pay taxes. Well, there's no taxes. Let's go to the, I guess, the Overseer of the Agora to start again. No, with the HRAL for this. The Overseer of the Agora got the cards first. And that's kind of important because that's an advantage to get your cards drawn first. But let's see, our home Safet is over here. So he's only allowed to hold 3 cards. He would... He's going to trade in 2 ochre. That'll give him a quick $7 or $4, and that can be handed to anyone he likes. We'll put it here just for the sake of things, and put that there because that's going to go, actually gets reshuffled into the deck. This guy is allowed to hold only 2 cards. He's going to turn in his 2 hides for $4. And we'll also throw that over here. With his big influence, he's able to maybe convince some of the neutrals into play. This guy's only allowed to hold 2 cards. The Papyrus is the best deal. So he'll turn these in for $7. And he doesn't have somebody who's particularly good at oratory and influence, but this guy's the best he's got. So he'll put the money on him. And now this guy's only allowed to hold one card, and he's got crap. He gets to see last, but they're all the same. He'll turn in both cards for $4. Because chances are that's the best he's going to be able to do. He's got a lot of oratory and influence over here, so that's a good place for it. Now these get shuffled in. And the overseer gets some cash. Shit. So the overseer gets one for every 5 trade goods. Now, here's the problem. If I had taxes in play, I'd have to keep track of the total amount of money in a calculator. I obviously forgot to do that. But there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let me count again. It might. No, it's either 9 or it's either 8 or 9. It's not gonna be 10. So he only gets 1 extra buck for his job. And now these get shuffled back into their decks. They get shuffled in. They don't just get put on the bottom. For good or ill. I don't know how much difference that really makes. But you can kind of predict things and put them in clumps, like you can in Civilization if they all go on the bottom. Got a couple of rules corrections from Rick. Foist a ball. Some of them are intentional ones where the rules kind of indeed omitted something. So, for example, trade concessions at the beginning of the game, you should be able to play them. That's not that big a deal not to have missed that. When you upgrade governorships, he intended to give 3 influence, I believe it was, as a bonus for that. That just didn't make it in the rules. Uh-oh. My memory, I had 4 things on the stack, and one of them squished out. One of them is the repopulating Rome. He's got it exactly the same way that the Republic of Rome has it written. It's got to be active senators. You have 8 active senators that count, and you pull out of the inactive. I don't know if he covered this, but in Republic of Rome, they actually come out of the forum if there aren't enough inactive families to deal new families out. Which kind of, I think I just played it by ear all the time. But there's another one. Oh yeah, trade fleets. No ability to reinforce those, and that's just a little contradiction somewhere in the rules and it seemed like it kind of it could be taken either way. Okay. I need to have a pipe. I started off the forum phase. I'm kind of moving a little quicker. I was planning on going through most of it without really reporting on it. And I rolled up another event on the first guy, manpower shortage, and I realized I didn't take the manpower shortage into account. We could not have built the naval force that we did for the last turn. I'm not going to fix that. It's too much effort to try to go back and figure out, it really would have meant no battle at all. I'll try to remember that's there. Sometimes this happens to me in Republic of Rome too, which has counters to cover that, and I could fish those out and use them, especially since I'm planning on playing ROR, if we make it. This situation looks scary to me, and I'm telling you, you deal out much more than, I don't know. The first deck in Republic of Rome is a bitch, and this is looking to threaten to be just as nasty. Especially if you get a bad event early on, and it forces you not to be able to deal with the things that are already piling up. It's a rough game. So we have actually, while I'm at it, we started with this guy. He's going to do a persuasion attempt. He has 9 influence plus 3 oratory, gives him 12. Remember, this guy bid on a couple of initiatives in the last turn, because he would have actually had a shot at getting someone. Well, now a lot of people have some influence. So that 12, as compared to the loyalties here, I have a base chance of 4 of getting them. Now, if I throw $4 in, I have a chance of 8 of getting them. Other people could throw money in to stop me. That would be pretty dicky, though. How willing are people to do that? You know, I don't feel like there's that much negative feeling going on, and money that gets stuck on these guys gets kind of lost. I would like to have the big military guy. This guy's got a higher oratory and could be more valuable. So I'm going to go up to an 8. And I roll an 11, and I am just screwed. Which means the money goes over here and stays on him to defend him. And, well, we'll make our roll for a trader. We don't have money to take that. So now the initiative passes. And I'll step back. If anything exciting comes back, I'll report on that. I don't know about exciting. He drew a card, Hand of the Navigator. Now this is family 7A, so I gotta look to see if 7's out, and it is. That means I can't play that guy until either this dude ends up in the inactive families, or I think the forum through dying or something. However, I could conceivably, if we think it's important, cut a trade or a deal with this guy to give him the red card that I've got in my hand in exchange for something, which, and that's only during the revolution phase, which would allow him to play it then. And then that just kind of advances and improves his statesman. Now, here's the thing. I got a good guy with Barca, who's also in Carthage, so he can affect these guys. He has 12 influence and 3 oratory. That makes him a 15. Against a loyalty of 8, he has a 7 for free. Alternatively, I could go after this guy, where I'd go down from a 7 to a 3, but if I threw money in, I could get a higher roll. I'm going to go for the guy who's easier to get, just because I'd rather not throw money in and risk it. The money might be valuable in my hands, and other people could throw additional money in this guy's defense, and he then just could become this pile of money, and that's a really dangerous thing that happens in the game. Well, I don't get my chance either. I roll for, if I want to spend $5, which I don't have, I could have gotten another trader, and I don't particularly want to move the faction leader. I don't think he seems to be where I want him. And again, we step back and try to stay away for a while this time. And we are, let's see, at the end of the forum phase, a couple additional purchases. This guy made one. This guy got his first one for free and got very little out of it. He drew Asto, and then this guy bid a buck and took Asto, throwing money in on him. This guy probably should have outbid him, but he chose not to, because he's already up a person. And if you start gathering too many people, you start becoming a problem in other people's views. We tallied up the votes as well. Some of them didn't change, but where there are new people, we got more votes, and we've got a total of 21, 31, 36. So it's going to take 19 votes to form a coalition that kind of works. Our home suffet has very few votes. He could actually collude with this guy and make an alliance, though, that has enough votes to run the table. There isn't much out there right now. There might be some jobs running down, though. Not the governorships, but the harbor master is going to be available. And of course, there's the job of the suffet, which is very important, because that, if you can't get, especially in Republic of Rome where it's even more important, but if you can't get sort of the suffet in this game or the consul in Republic of Rome, you're largely locked out of the game until you start getting characters who can get that, because one, that's the route to an immediate influence. This is worth 5 influence, getting either of the suffet markers. The other jobs are worth something in this. They don't exist in Republic of Rome. So there's a little bit more valuable influence to dish out. There may be too much influence. We'll have to watch, because as people get close to 21 influence, bad things happen to them in Republic of Rome. And one of the pressure valves in Republic of Rome has been removed from this. There is no longer the ability to do minor prosecutions against just anyone. You can only do it against someone who stole money. And that's the only way to take influence away from people. The major it used to be in Republic of Rome, you could pretty much target anyone who had a real office. So, if somebody was the consul, you can hit them with that. The major, maybe I'm wrong. I was wrong about the repopulation. Let me look at how this is worded, because I may not have read it well. Any office allowed you to get a minor prosecution in the other room. That may create more tension in the game and more capability for the game to actually end early in a victory. Negotiation thought. And the negotiation is really the exciting part to me of the Senate phase in the whole game. In Republic of Rome, the idea of carving out that deal for a government that works and goals the government can make. In this case, and in the game as a whole, nobody's got any real ideological concerns. That's maybe the one kind of flaw, if there is one, and it's just an omission in the design from the beginning of, we don't want people to have some kind of current or ideal that they're aiming for in the game. That just wasn't part of the design, either in this or in Republic of Rome. That would be something that would kind of appeal to me. And in a way, it's kind of what I like about at least the concept of the bots, is that they have a name and they have things they're aiming for that are specific. But as the game purely goes with just hey, all we're doing is seeking power for our little coterie, that works very well, kind of in the same way Junto works well, right? Okay. So in terms of negotiation, I like to kind of babble about that a little bit. I like to babble about lots of things. What we see is this guy does not have a position for a Safet. He can't become one. But by looking around, the harbor master is going to be available. That gives him some bucks, and he would like that position. In terms of the alliances, he could either make an alliance with two other players, cutting out the guy with the most votes, which often that's a desirable thing to do. You don't want somebody snowballing into a powerhouse of the game. Or he could look and say, you know what? This guy's almost as powerful as he is. Why don't we just nail this down and make it solid? And he and I will control this, and we'll offer to bring someone in as the other Safet, because we can't take it ourselves. Now, if he only has one free position too. And conceivably, I think I could make this guy my Safet. That might be the most appealing of all possibilities. Is he any good? He's got a decent military capability. Of course, that throws things up in the air in terms of who runs what, etc. It does not say it has to be a player-controlled choice. Of course, the highest-ranking officer has to be player-controlled. Okay, so we'll look at that as the first option. Now, that's dangerous because this guy will dice for who gets to be the Safet. So, our next look is, well, what kind of military people could we put forward? There aren't a lot. There aren't any better. So, this seems like as good an option. I shouldn't have made Mago the state treasurer. All right, are they willing to? Yes, they're going to make that their plan. And honestly, I don't think anybody terribly is going to step in on that. So now, who gets the home Safet? Odd, it goes over here. Even, it goes over to Sinelos. He gets the home Safet, which is what he wanted. And I'll put that in the only position that can hold it, giving him lots and lots of influence. You don't really need multiple people with lots of influence. You only really need to develop one. But, as in Republic of Rome, you have to kind of fill out all the positions. And this guy goes up to a 9 influence. Which strangely doesn't make him more difficult to take control over. I always thought influence should sort of rate that. Now we have to move the committee members. And Harbor Master is going to be available. The Censor, the Overseer, Treasurer. Wow, he's got like all the offices. Supervisor, we ignore the governorships here. They've already been handled. And we're going to propose Bostar as the next candidate for this. Now, this is a point where somebody sitting on a lot of cards and an outrage might play a public outcry. The problem is, again, you're basically defeating this guy. You're making an enemy of him. How bad is that? Well, if you had a deal that makes you the most likely, it's not that bad. This guy says, I'm actually more likely. I'll tell you why. Because I'm not as strong as he is. So it's more likely to go to me. So on odd, he's going to play it anyway. He does not. Essentially, it passes because throwing money in, these guys will be called to vote first, and them throwing money in would be wasted because other people could throw money in afterwards. And it would also, again, piss people off. So it's not really something I like doing. And there we go. And those offices do not come with anything, any importance. Which is interesting. Right? I'm just trying to remember. No, they get three influence. So, I forgot to give that out to other people. These are people. This guy got it. So he should be up 3, I believe. Did I give this guy? He's only got 10. He should be up 3 as well. When he got state treasurer. This guy should have some. The fact that the cards don't say it makes it difficult on me to find or to remember. This guy got it recently as well, so I should have put that on him. And now this guy just got one, so he's up to a 12. And we kind of see how these points are getting closer and closer to that 21. Now that 21's a hard problem because look at how many votes we had. We had 21, 31, 36 votes. If you were a fair size group, 36, let's grab our little calculator while we do this. 36 plus 21 says it would only take 57 votes total. There's only 57 votes total. We divide that, that means there's 29 votes that you'd have to accomplish. Now, if you have 21 of them already, anyone with like 8 or 9 votes can pretty much propose that they're made council for life or suffet for life or whatever, and they just win this. It's not guaranteed. Other people can throw money in to change the vote totals. You kind of want to be the highest ranking officer when you make the proposal, but quite often that's possible. So anyway, there's a lot of points in this that make it very possible, I think, more possible than in Republic of Rome, just because of all these offices generating influence. Okay, so what else do we want to do? We assigned that. We have no trade concessions to assign. We could recall people. We don't want to do that. Okay, we need forces. And this time we're going to remember the manpower shortage. Now, forces are tricky in this. So Celtiberians are I find this actually kind of annoying. Celtiberians are $8 each. Normally it's just $10 each for each legion. And they don't make that much difference. So $8 each. That'll be 16, 32, 48, and 16. So 16 times 4. Okay, that's 64 to build these. Now we only have $11 left. Nothing's going to be able to build that. Can we send an army out for this? 1, 2, 3, 4. We're only a 6 strength. If we add all these together. A 6 plus his 3 is just 9. I'm just not kind of getting there. I mean, 9 means I'm at -1 on here. I have to roll high to succeed. Do I want to get another naval victory against the Pyrrhic War this time? I could build navies instead of those armies. Yeah, I think we may save our money, our $64 for next turn. Why? Because that means we don't have to pay upkeep on them this turn. And how many navies do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9 navies still. 9 plus 3 is 12. But here we're facing 10 where we were facing 7 before. What if we build 3 more navies? Well, fleets cost 9, 18 each. That'll cost us 54. I think it's what we want to do. Look, we didn't really make ourselves any better off. And we're now going to assign Sinelos to sail out and attack the Pyrrhic War. And now these actually shift positions. So this one's the unprosecuted one. Him being gone or not doesn't really do anything to us. Is there anything else we want to resolve here? I don't think so. So, we'll close the session. I don't think anybody has anything exciting to take care of. How many fleets did we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And that's the number I thought. So we send 12 fleets with him. He's at +5 again. And we roll 5 dice, or 3 dice. See if he wins. Oh, only a 7. That's not a disaster or anything, so he gets a 12. That's a stalemate. We lose a legion and a fleet. We only actually lose a fleet. We have to draw a death chit for him. It's 15. That's only 1 away, but it doesn't mean anything. Somebody next to him got killed. And at this point, we check the results of the battle. That was a stalemate. We remove the lost forces, draw mortality chits. If it's a land battle, create a veteran army, and leave the remaining forces on the war. So he stays out there to fight the naval battle again. Now we could send him more forces. Now here's the thing. When you recall, if you choose not to recall him, there's no proconsuls in this game, but I think that's what the generals serve as here. Appointed to prosecute a war. I'm not sure, though. He may just lose his office and be the guy prosecuting the war. In which case, I don't know. I guess we're better off keeping his boats on him while he does that. And now we push our way down to the revolution phase here. He was a non-victorious general, was he not? So we have to check to see if anything happens to him. And this is new. This is public reaction. Looks like we roll 2 dice. -2 for stalemate, plus his popularity. He has none. and he's fine. We don't worry about him being executed because he didn't finish the job. He didn't get recalled yet. Right then. And I gotta look at the red cards, see if anybody has anything they want to do with them. And then we start another turn. What effect for the turn for the revolution is this guy played his trade concession. This is interesting. These may be misprints here. These may have been supposed to go on the offices and went on the trade concessions instead. But I'm playing it as it's written, even though it's not in the rules that way, and the offices have the +3 in the rules. He just got +3 influence for playing that on himself. Again, driving the influence up. There are a lot of positions that go for that, and this is kind of getting scary to me, the amount of influence that's kicking around in people's hands. That may not mean that someone, without the pressure valve, it may not mean that someone can win. It may mean that bad military choices have to be made in terms of leaders, or assassinations are made against people, which can really kind of make it harder for the country to survive. However, it does get, without the pressure valve, can be kind of cheap feeling. Yes, I'll take a minor prosecution if you make me, the counsel next turn. That can be very problematic. All right, so there was some thought about putting the austerity program in hand. The problem with this is it pulls a lot of the trade goods out of the decks. That may not be that big a deal, but he doesn't have the answer to that event. Someone else holds it, but that information is not being shared right now. All right, now, during the death phase, through mortality, somebody who exists, and they just kind of go away. Term's gone. Job goes up here. And they go over here in the inactive families phase card. And now there'll be a new draw that can conceivably come out. There's also a chance that they can just show up into the forum, which is a little different from what I recall. I want to check things as I'm playing. I'm so curious, where is it different? So, this is checked during there's a point where families fill out that's specifically in here. Aging leaders. Right after that, there's returning senators. Let's see if that's present here. This rule book is such a mess. This is in the forum phase. Can I find the forum phase? Here it is. Okay, now I gotta look for... I know there are aging leaders here. Yeah, I'm probably not going to be able to find this. This thing is such a mess. And this is... Okay. It's not under family. I don't remember who wrote the rules here to the original, but I guess this Richard Duck's Bethold, and Robert Haynes. But I get the feeling that the rules formatting is Greenwood at his worst. That nobody would have written rules to this level without his help. To this level of confusing. He really... anyway. Here, repopulating is a different thing. But that's another step. That's down in the Senate phase. I don't know if Rick found a rule in the original or decided, hey, it would be nice if we brought the senators back more often. Either way, it's cool the way it works. So anyway, and I'm not going to keep track of the Senate votes. I count them when it's necessary to count them. I leave them in place because I'm just lazy. So now we start dishing out the money, etc. Speaking of the money, now I do not remember a place where it really talks about. Maybe I'm mistaken and I skipped over it. That's quite possible because I know the game sort of. But where it talks about what you can use the money in your faction for. Now, there are contributions here, which are that, but it'll be under redistributed funds that it might show up. This is the only thing. So, yeah. So here's the thing. They talk about the faction treasury, but they never talk about any time when you can use that faction treasury that I'm aware of. Let me see. I'm not even sure about the votes talking about using money for them. So there may be some things that were here. Buying votes. A player can buy additional votes on a one-for-one spending out of the senators or the faction treasury. Yeah. And then later on, when you're supporting troops, the faction treasury might be useful there. But for a lot of things, you can't just throw money out of your faction treasury. I think you're allowed, at least in the original, to defend people from your faction treasury. So if somebody's attacking one of your characters, you have a big pile of hidden money here, they can't touch you. They can't possibly get a roll on you. They might get you to throw enough money, though, that if they assassinate you, you lose a ton of money, which could be a very important factor in the game because, at least in Republic of Rome, sometimes it comes down to who has the most money that they can position at the right time. So, for example, if you get up to 21 influence and you can force a vote, if you were clever enough to move money in from your faction treasury out into play onto one of your senators who's in Rome, he can spend all that money on your vote. And if nobody else was that clever, if nobody was paying attention when you did that, you can basically buy the game at that point. That almost never happens to me in solo games. And I don't think I've ever seen it happen in an opposed game. But I usually do really poorly at this opposed. Like, I get off to a horrible start and nobody trusts me because, I don't know, I'm who I am. And I never get to the position where I'm really in a place where I can buy the win like that. Maybe because I'm too busy trying to keep everyone else from getting any advantages and they all get upset at me. The government goes out with its hands begging again. It was down around 40 something after getting its income. Remember, no taxation. I still haven't allocated any. A couple of people bought themselves up. This guy and this guy each bought a point. That gave me the extra $20. That I may have enough to put together a war. This guy's still out here with the Pyrrhic War. I gotta remember, because maybe he doesn't want to fight that. Maybe it's safer to call his navy back and send the next Marine Safet out here. And I think General is a job and can only come into play through an action, but he can be left out here in that proconsular position, which doesn't give any benefits or anything, but it's not represented by any title here. And you're actually not prosecutable by it, but instead of being prosecuted, interesting pronunciation there. Oh, and I finally got to glue these. They're still damp, but I put very little glue, so they work pretty well. He has to deal with the possibility of a public reaction if he gets recalled without a success, and that'll be the full one. Had he rolled the 5 that he did, he would have been executed. So that sounds pretty bad to me. This table is very legitimate. Carthage was very, very unforgiving of failure in a way that Rome really wasn't. Rome, you could prosecute someone for a failed war, and that every so often happens in a game, or you could just prosecute them for whatever, for holding an office, and kill them that way. But in general, unless you had political disfavor amongst the players, unless the players decided that it was good to kill your character off, really, you were pretty safe. This guy, the Carthaginians, it felt like they disposed of good leaders who had a setback far too often. And that's kind of important, because the players would never dispose of a good leader willingly who just for a setback in a game of Republic of Rome. They would charge someone who did too well. But that's a different matter, and that's available here too. You still have the censor who can, play that little political game. So nobody traded with each other, but the amounts of money available through the trade phase, and that was just really, the cards didn't align right, that anybody could make a profit that was worth risking someone else making a profit. The amount of money available through the trades in this are scary big. This guy pulled 32. He managed to get 4 of the papyrus in his hand, whereas this guy pulled in like 20. These are huge amounts of money. Now, there's no concessions like there are in Rome, where the armaments or naval concessions can bring in tremendous amounts. But wow, the possibility of these traders can really, really rack up the money. And some people are looking and saying, maybe we need taxes just to keep people in line, like heavy taxes, at least 50%. In addition, the people who made this big money, well, they're going to be able to buy themselves some influence. Now, the guy who made the most money isn't getting anywhere in terms of positions. So it's not really that terrifying for him. And this was the other guy. He's not really in a very strong position either. Really, the two people I'm most worried about are the other two players, especially this one. With his big 15 influence, he's getting close if he was turning in big money, but he doesn't have a lot of traders. But there is definitely a fear here, and a feeling of, maybe actually taxing this money might not be a terrible idea. The question, though, is the people with lots of traders don't really want to tax. They'd like to get something for their contribution, right? So that's a little interesting. Somebody's going to get some money for this. Who is it? The overseer of the Agara, unfortunately, is over here, so nobody's getting that cash there. And everybody's in warehouse capable. Actually, I had some people throw away an extra card because I forgot about the coinage. Damn it, but I'll live with it. And now we reshuffle the 1, 2, and 3 decks there and move on to the form phase. I'm going to play by what I understand the Republic of Rome rules here are for the form phase, which is nobody can persuade this sucker while he's out at sea. I don't know if that's intended or not, but I don't think that it's specified here. It doesn't look like there's any requirement that people have to be in the same location. The Republic of Rome rule, I think, is actually very specific. You can only persuade people who are in Rome, and only with people who are in Rome. And here, it doesn't seem to have that restriction at all. I don't know if that was intended, because I can see an argument being made of, look, you would be able to exert influence outside of Rome in this case, or outside of Carthage in this case. So I can see the argument for doing it the other way. Somehow I suspect that the intention was to limit it as it was. Anyway, on with the form phase. It's changed in a way. Certainly with the guys with piles of money. One reason you want to keep money on here is to defend your people. Mago here has an oratory of 4, an influence of 15. He has 19 strength. Now, the easiest thing for... He can't go to that guy, remember. The easiest thing for him to go for is this one, which is a 16. But I see money that was squirreled away. And the money that's on the people is evident, and I know how much they took, so I know there's, I think, 10 or 20 here. Yeah, 20 there. I'm not going to be able to touch that. I know that. So then I go elsewhere. Nobody else has any money on their people, and in particular, this guy's only 17, so on a 2, I take him over. And there, I think, well, in Republic of Rome, I think there are cards with screw with the die rolls for this, like in... so that doesn't happen, but you know, it was an interesting attempt, and now we see we're in the era where you have to keep a stockpile of cash on your faction to prevent people from taking you over. And things escalated awfully quick, especially we're going to probably see some things fall to the guys with big money on them. Busily coming back on this farm phase again. First of all, when events came up, Evil Omens that dropped the bank a little bit, which is a pain in the ass because I don't think I have enough money to build the army I need. And this is going to give -1 to all die rolls except Persuasion, which gives +1 to initiatives accepted, which is the random events generator. So now we're on this guy doing a Persuasion. Now he has 13, 16. He can go after this with 17. He's at -1. That puts him to 9, 10. This money is on him. Nobody, well, other people could defend. I think that money could be used to defend him if somebody wanted to. But I got a +1 to the die roll, so actually I think 10 might not have been important. Yeah, it is. Okay. And I fail, and I've just donated a pile of cash over to the other faction accidentally because of that. Wow. Unintentionally. The first bid only went for 1. We had some more takeovers here. This guy took over number 20, which was from over there, because he has the card for him. And was able to sleaze that away. But anyway, the first bid ended up in a random event, which is the epidemic here. And this works the same as in Republic of Rome. 6 chits were drawn, and now I gotta look to see these people could all die if they're in Carthage. If they're not in Carthage, they can't be killed. But if a second epidemic comes, it's like a foreign epidemic and only hits people not in Carthage. So, let's see. I got 7 here. He's dead. Let's see. 4, 5, 6, 12. Oh, there goes 4. This is a way to get rid of the folk who maybe are too powerful. Get rid of the nun. 6, 5, 12. Oh, there goes 6. Now he is a faction leader, so he doesn't die. Well, he dies, but we don't lose him. And this is, there goes the trade concession available to be allocated. All that money and influence. And sometimes shit just happens, right? Okay, that's 6. 5 and 12. Oh, there goes 5. Let's just wipe Carthage out. And I'm looking for a 12. We got a 12 anywhere? Just make sure. He wouldn't be eligible. And no governors went, so I did that right. Okay. Just want to make sure. So yeah, that's serious culling of the population of senators. We may see some of them being handed back out if there aren't 8. Right now there's 1, 2. I got to be careful because of governorships. 3, 4, 5. No, 6, 7, 8, 9 are available and aligned. So that's, we're still safe, but if we start sending people off places, that changes. And before we make it to the Senate phase, and I don't know who's in charge now, we lost the suffrat. The other one's off away at war, so I don't know who ranks 3rd. This guy is 3rd. Okay, so State's Treasurer is going to be in charge. We had more events. We had rats show up, which just, they're die rolls against the against grain cards that people have warehoused. I'm going to remove them. It doesn't happen yet, but we got a mess up here. We got a couple of senators returned. I kind of like the way they're popping back up. I think that makes it more possible. So there's a lot of death possibility in any of these games, but it makes it more possible to kind of have people who aren't just the guys who have lived the longest holding the positions. Nobody was able to do any more recruitment of other players, so that's kind of potent. You know what I forgot? I forgot to consider if people wanted to change who their faction leader was. It wasn't going to happen here, but this guy might have, because he's got an interest in Zimrita, because he has the leader for him, and that's a pretty decent guy. The problem is this guy's really decent, but he's also got money, etc. So I'm going to shift that over here to a new faction leader. I kind of miss my aging roles, I'll say that much. But this is complex enough that adds a layer of mechanical complexity to the game that I'd rather avoid right now while I'm learning the system, even though it's very similar. So we're on to the Senate phase, and I don't know where we're going to get the money to fight this war. Or wars. Okay, time for the early morning corrections department. Start off, the money at the beginning of the game. Carthage was supposed to start with $100 at the beginning of the game. I missed that. I started them at 0 and then gave them their 100. However, that well works out pretty well because the manpower shortage, they spent too much. By just about $100. Rick tells me I owe him, the government, $8 more. I'm going to give it to them because they're having a lot of trouble right now, and they could really use it. Taxation. It starts at 10%. You know what? The government as a whole, the players as a whole, seemed happy with 0%. I don't know if they're allowed to do that actually. They may have to give a 10% taxation. The reason I'm happy with 0% is I don't have to calculate anything. Anyway, we're not going to fix that. I'm just curious whether or not I can set the tax rate. Non-negative multiples of 10 less than 100. Sounds like it can stay at 0. Here's the thing, they can't set it automatically. So anyway, they agreed to put it at 0. Now they're going to have to start creeping it up if they want the government to make any money off of it. The event cards. Event cards are, I'm doing them correctly. They are meant to be played as, you know, player-controlled actions. And that's made sense because they're red. I might change the game that way if I, you know, next time I play it, but just because I kind of don't like cards that make the players sort of gods with too much power, and I feel like some of those do. You know, he makes his argument, which is that there's foreknowledge of these events, but no, you know, foreknowledge doesn't mean you can hold it off as long as you like. So it just doesn't strike two with me. The laws, this is actually specified in the rules. They happen during the Senate phase. But they're played as cards, just as I've done them. So it doesn't make too much difference. It's just the time that they happen. That's the same as Republic of Rome. And also there are a lot of counters that I haven't kind of fished out of this bag, I think. I started sorting this and decided, you know, the hell with it. I don't want to deal with money counters or numbers or stuff like that on these tiny ones. So it turns out actually the missing things I have, like tax, there should be a tax counter. There are prior suffragette markers, fleet defeated, stuff like that. That all exists. You know, in case you don't have the Republic of Rome or want to use some other markers. I still don't feel like fishing it out, though. They're going to be very thin little markers, and I'm pretty happy kind of fudging along the way I am. Righto. World of the Senate's beginning to get a little too unbalanced. As are other worlds, like the world of money, right? But this guy's up to 13 votes with all the deaths that happened. Nobody else is above 10. Now, between them, they can and they have 15 votes, which is more than his 13. But what it means is that he can pair up with whomever he chooses. Now, there's the possibility that the other 3 players say, "Screw that, man. You're not, we don't want you there. We don't want you in charge." So we have to figure out who is in charge right now. And right now we decided that it's the state treasurer, because the other suffet is off at war for now. Okay. So, I think the first thing is the coalition building. Let me see if that triple alliance can be made. And yes, they're all pretty much very pleased with the idea of handing things over, of getting things out of his hands for this. When I look at the trade, well, that's what's really worrying me right now, is getting the tax income up, because we just lost a bunch of traders along with everything else. The deaths, well, that hurts the economy in a way that feels kind of funny. It feels like the economy of Carthage should still be strong. It shouldn't be affected by personal deaths easily. But I don't know. Maybe the trading houses have strong personal connections. Okay, so the question is, who are going to be the suffets? And right now, Mago cannot hold a position, which means we're going to pick 2 people over here. We would like somebody, actually, we could pick one of these if we need the military capability. We would like somebody with good military capability, but we don't have that option. Now, we could make Barca our suffet, as the naval suffet, and he says, yeah, I want that. No, not with 15 influence. So we're really looking at a military 2 leader who can take the position. And both sides, actually he doesn't have one. He only has a military 1. So I guess we're going to go with Bostar and Eshmer. And if this guy had a public outcry, you could make things tricky at the end of as to that happening. But I think that's what we're going to see. It's going to pass. Now, one of the things that I want to worry about before I hand out, because I'm not going to hand out the positions on camera, I don't think, but I do want to bring up what I'm thinking. I want to get that tax rating up, right? At least I do as a player. I'm not as the as the defense of Carthage thought. But maybe not all the players want to. So if somebody had a really huge hand of cards or whatever, they may not want the tax rating to go up. But overall, I think everybody's happy with that idea. So we're going to probably see a 10% tax levied. And I'm going to, use some kind of marker out of Republic of Rome for that, because I don't want to dig through and try to find another little piece. A number of orders of business were conducted pretty silently. Everybody pretty much agreed, handing out the positions. Some of them going out here to the. So remember to give the influence and the term marker. To the people who are uncontrolled, and that's not really that great, because this guy's the home suffet, which means he gets the second shot. Then another tactic that I see often in Republic of Rome, which is we shipped away one of their people out, one of their big votes, that big 5 oratory that dropped his voting total quite a bit, down to 9, off to Sardinia, Corsica. Of course, he's going to be getting this guy back soon, so it's kind of you want to send people out to governorships who are a problem, and that's already developed, so it won't be. That was a successful roll right at the end. I don't know if I gave out the influence. We already have our best military leader committed somewhere. He has not won the naval battle, though. We can't ship him off to handle the Sicilian War, which we'd kind of like to do, but I think we're going to continue using him just for that extra point as a bonus. We may send some land troops in though this time to try to do that. We also raised the taxes up to 10% just to make sure that we can start getting money. Nobody's got... At one point it looked like there was maybe a couple of people who maybe wouldn't want taxes to go up too high. But you know, 10% isn't that painful anyway, and we do need to get them back up to that, but up to a position where we can start, you know, getting some income into the government as an assurance, just so we can do things. Again, we decided on just prosecuting the naval. We sent him some naval reinforcements, and he's got an opportunity to attack that. He's got a +6 to his die roll. Make it +5 for the evil omens. I think I'm going to spend 9 more and bring it back up to +6. And I think we're done with all other actions for the government. I usually play pretty fast and loose with the government. That's a 9. 9's a disaster. Oh shit. Disaster is not good. He loses half his force and chits equal to the number of units lost. And he's going to have to roll on the non-success if he survives. Sinelos lost the battle. The modifier of -8 didn't get killed in it, but the modifier of -4 for the disaster. On a roll of a 7 drops him down to 3. He's been executed, and that's the only result that could kill him from that side of things. At this point, it looks like Carthage is probably going to go after the Second Sicilian War. They kind of wanted to do it this turn, but they didn't have quite enough money to get a good attack on it, and they had all those navies and took their shot here. But now they no longer have enough navies to fight a real naval battle, but they have enough left to support a battle there, and they should have the money next turn. That's going to put us over to the revolution phase, and, well, that's where I made the battle check, actually, is during that. And then everybody's got to decide on their cards. This guy may want to play one awfully soon. He's okay right now, and you only have to discard down during the revolution phase. The problem is, all he has are events, and I'm not sure any of them particularly help him. So, for example, this grain shortage, well, why is this particularly helpful or bad? It's certainly bad for Carthage, but it doesn't seem like something a player might necessarily have any desire to play. On the other hand, someone has the austerity program. He has the austerity program. This may be worthwhile, but it's a law. He would have to play it during the Senate phase. Probably should have considered it this turn, but, well, I mean, he's only got one dude. Maybe he should have. Do I want to back that up? We'll leave it be as it is. The only thing anyone really wants to play is this guy's going to play Himmelko. He can do that because the family's not out yet. Actually, I think it was out. Yeah, it was. I shouldn't be rearranging these. That was an error, but it's not a big deal. And now he has the opportunity to bring the guy in. If that family comes available, it goes under him and he gets control of it, which is kind of sweet. And then this guy is advantageous because he ignores Sicilian Wars, disasters, and standoffs. So he's almost guaranteed that Carthage in general is going to make him the Safed, the military Safed. Just because we're in trouble right now. It may not be horrible trouble, but we're in trouble. Over here I could have played someone else called Himmelko, the navigator, because I have his family, and you could say, well, that's, you know, you want to do that, right? I also have Hanno the navigator and Mago the explorer. All of them are appealing. I can't play Mago because he's this family. I think the Hanno family, I can't play that because I don't own this guy. It would go under him and be uncontrolled, so that wouldn't help me otherwise. And what about 20? Is he kicking around? Yes, that's mine. But in all these cases, I don't particularly want to play them because Carthage just doesn't have the resources to go out and set up trade goods right now. Now, we haven't seen a lot of wars come up except for that first turn. I think we just got really unlucky on the first turn. There aren't a lot of wars from what I understand in this game. There's a lot more exploration and stuff. So this was a really, really challenging start. Kind of like Republic of Rome is always a challenging start. It doesn't hurt, though, the amount of cards that come out of the deck early on. Now, I think this game is more resilient to that than ROR, but I still would probably say, you know, I want each game to have sort of the same amount of starting cards out, make the job just as hard, no matter how many players there are, which, you know, since you are basically distilling the non-war cards out, you're taking the intrigue cards and the people, I like to balance the amount that are out there. And I usually aim for, although this may still be kind of challenging, I usually aim in Republic of Rome for 2 senators and 2 red cards, or 2 senators and 1 red card per player. Because in particular, I think it's important that for a 3-player game, which means if you have 2 senators in a 3-player game, you would only be getting 1 in a 6-player game per player. Anyway, the 2 and 2 works well because I can go up to 6 players and keep approximately the same balance. When you go to 3 of each, well, let's say we're at 3 of each in a 3-player game, then we could cut that down for the 6-player game as well. But when you go to 3 of each in a 6-player game, you're pulling 6 times 6, 36 cards out of the deck that are safe cards. That means there's a lot of wars and other kind of exciting stuff packed into that deck, and it's very likely that Rome is going to have problems. And I assume the same issue here is in play, even if it's not necessarily going to be as challenging and as threatening.